And when I lost all this money, the only option that I had was to find a way to get the money back or risk being arrested. And what I did is, now what is it that separates successful people from people who are not successful? Because taking too much risk, you're not just taking debt, you're paying this debt every week. You're not just paying this debt every week, you're taking this debt from a very bad place. Taking these investors, they lose 90% of the time. That's the win rate is 10%. But however, when they win, that 10%, that win, because they've gotten a high reward, is going to cover up their losses, which was 90%. And you have to make the choices and say, which asset am I going to get at this point in time? Which is this really an asset or is it a liability? After a business failure, it's very important for you to think about what are the things that made me fail in my previous business or in the business I was doing before. Or even if you're starting out, you have to think about what are the things that I need to know, what are the things that I need to do in order to succeed in this business that I'm doing. And if you don't do all these things, if you don't know what made you fail before, or if you don't ask what are the things you need to do in order to succeed, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to succeed in this business space, because in the space of business, it's a very, very harsh space, and if you are not smart or sharp about anything that you're doing, it's going to be very difficult to succeed, and it might just be better for you to just get a job and let someone take care of you if you can do very, very well for that for that person. So one of the things I always think about is that what is it that makes people to be successful in whatever thing that they do? As a business owner, what is it that separates successful people from people who are not successful? Even as an employee or somebody working at a job somewhere, you have to find out what are the things that are making people to be successful. And somebody says, if you know about the Pareto principle says that 80% of the people share 20% of the results, or 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your efforts, and then 80% of people are going to manage 20% of the result or resources allocated in a particular space, while 20% are going to maximize. That means 20% are like the best, and 90% is about 10%. So what makes this 10% of people, 20% of people successful? What makes the 20%? What makes them 20%? And what differentiates them from the 80%? Why is it that some business people are successful early enough, or at least at the right time, while some people struggle throughout their lives in business? And I've not really spent time in business per se, but I'm learning, and I've done at least years in business, and I always think about what is it that makes somebody to be more richer than me in terms of results, and what is it that gives this guy peace more than whatever thing I'm doing, and what is it that makes these people to keep failing in their business. And one of the things I've come to think about is the fact that there's something that separates different people from being successful. You know, Kiyosaki talks about, and Gucci also talks about the 4 quadrants. He talks about the employee, he talks about the self-employed, he talks about the business owner, and he talks about the investor. And one thing that separates all these people, or one thing that he always say, is the fact that you always have a choice to make. You have to make a decision in your life, in anything that you're doing, whether you're going to choose to become an employee, or whether you're going to choose to become a professional, or you want to become a self-employed person, you want to start your own business, or you want to become a big business owner, or you want to be an investor. You have to make a choice in whatever path you're going to pursue. You have to make a choice, whether somebody puts the choices there for you, or whether somebody puts the options there for you. You have to, in the end, make a decision. And that is what I think makes the successful people to be successful even more than people who are not successful. The quality of their decisions. You know, when you want to choose a spouse, a partner to get married to. I'm not married, but you know that when you want to choose a spouse to get married to, you always have to look at some qualities that you've drawn out for yourself and say, this is what I want, this is what I want from this person, this is what I want from the person I want to get married to. Why? And the quality of the choices, the quality of the requirement or the options that you set out are those things that are going to determine kind of relationship or spouse you're going to get. And that's the same thing about the people who are very successful, very wealthy, or the richest people, or people who are the best in their fields in every area or every industry. They always have the best decisions. They always know who to connect to. who do I connect to in this space? Who do I network with in this space? What should I sell? What should I say? What should I not say? Where should I go? Where should I not go? What jobs should I take? What jobs shouldn't I take? Because if, for example, you work in the bank and the bank says you have to sell and bring in bank products to the bank, and then you have to have a plan on who am I going to meet, what's the quality, what are the things I'm going to say to this person. And when you settle those options, you have to make a decision to know which one you're going to start with. And I've seen that the decisions that you make in your life are very, very important, because if you don't make the right decisions, then there's very, very high probability that you're going to lose out and going to have bad choices, you're going to have bad things coming to you. So what makes Mr. A more wealthy, or what makes Mr. A to be richer than Mr. B, is the fact that Mr. A keeps choosing the right things over and over again consistently, while Mr. B keeps choosing the wrong things that is eating him up and making him not to be successful. You know, we have assets and liabilities. Everybody has assets and liabilities. I would say assets are the things that put money in your pocket, while liabilities are the things that take money out of your pocket. And once you have an asset, you want to always make sure that this asset always cash flow for you. And when you have a liability, you want to make sure that liability is only giving back to an asset which is going to cash flow in your business or in whatever asset that thing is. And you have to make the choices and say, which asset am I going to get at this point in time? Which is this really an asset or is it a liability? When you don't know the right things to do because you've not had a set of requirements for what makes an asset, you just keep picking liabilities, thinking that those things are assets, and then those things keep making you to lose in your path for becoming successful, because you think it's an asset but it's actually a liability. And then you pick that, and then it affects you because you've not sat down to check what is the right decisions I'm supposed to make at every point in time. So I've learned that to be successful in life, or when we talk about success, it's not emotional stuff. It's not an emotional stuff. If you want to get married to somebody and you really love this person, I'm talking about marriage too much, but it's something that all relationships, something that makes it easier for all of us to understand. If you want to get married to a person, you know that you are an AS, and this person is an AS. You do not fit. It's not about emotions, it's about the logic behind it. You know, when you always balance or justify whatever choice you're going to make with logic, you don't want to end up killing yourself. So you have to ask, since you already know that this person is an AS and I'm an AS person as our group, so there's no point in us getting married. I really love you, I know that you love me too, but it makes no sense for us to get married because we're going to have an SS patient as our child, and that is going to be bad, not just for us but for the patient. And there is no way we're going to be successful because that SS patient is going to be a liability, and it's our kids, so it's going to force you to love a liability, something that's going to keep taking money from you for the rest of your life. And in the end, liabilities don't make you happy. If you have a bad liability that doesn't produce, becomes an asset quick enough, they are going to end up hating that liability you thought was an asset, and that's how it's going to kill you. Then love dies away, and then you have nothing about that. So you have to make the right choice and say, this thing is not good for me and this is how I'm going to get that. So what I'm just trying to say is that life generally is not about emotions. If you want to be successful, emotions play a very, very important part, and but you have to always justify it with logic, the right kind of logic. And sometimes you have to ask yourself that, is this the right thing for me? One of the best ways we can do that is by an expected value. And that just shows, when you understand expected value, you know that life is not just about emotions. It's about bringing those logic gates, those logic tables together to say, this is what truly matters. This is what truly matters. This is the thing that's going to take me to become successful. And how do I pursue it? How do I pursue it so that I can become successful? So life is not about emotions. Ensure that you don't think in terms of emotions. You have to try to reduce the amount of emotional thinking that you bring to the table, and then always still reason from logic and say, is this thing logical for me to do? That's why it's always important you see people having different companies, because once you have a company, it makes things easier for you. As a company that you've got in your company, you have, well, that's what we talk about company, not just one person, not just the only person thinking. So when you have a company, it's not just emotional. You now have logic, because somebody can counter your thinking and say this is not right. Then it forces you to think things from the other person's perspective. You have multiple people like that in the room. That's why you have a board. A board comes together and they see this thing this person wants to do. Does it make sense? Doesn't it make sense? Is it the right choice? That's why a company most times always beats an individual player. A team always beats an individual player, no matter how you look at it. So because they try their best there to reduce the emotions that's involved in decision making, because once you put emotions in decision making, it's out. And that's why you see when banks or when bankers are looking to give loans, they do not want somebody who is closely related to give somebody else loan, because if my child is coming to look for loan from my bank, it's not my money, yes I know, but emotions is going to becloud my sense of reasoning, and it's going to make me to give somebody who is not qualified, who is a liability to the bank. It's going to make me to give them a loan, which causes a conflict of interest in the banking system. So what I'm saying is that it's not about emotions, it's about logic. And you want to reduce as much emotions as much. That's why banks do not let somebody totally involved, or somebody who is emotionally attached to that person, to be involved in any process of decision making. You want to be as low in terms of emotions as possible, and that's why there's something called expected value in business or in life. And then most importantly in business, one thing I always think about is that you try to build a business, you're trying to build an empire, and one thing you must think about is that what are the quality of decisions you have to take. And the best way to think about your decisions is to make them into mathematical formula, not in terms of mathematics, but to put them as an expected value. I always talk about having positive cash flow, think in terms of positive cash flow. And then one of the things that I thought about is that, okay, since I want to have positive cash flow, one thing that's very, very important for me to have is a positive expected value, that I'm going to get positive cash flow from this stuff. I'm going to explain everything for you to see. So when we're talking about positive expected value, means that if I make this decision, what is the probability that I'm going to get the outcome that I really want? What is the probability that I get this outcome that I've set out for myself? And that's why probability comes in. It's something that is very, very important. What's the likelihood that that decision that you want to take is going to bring down about that outcome that you really want, and it's not going to drain you or physically destroy your life? So probability is something that's very important. I have to look at it in terms of expected value. So expected value means, what will I get? What is the probability? Expected value means, what is the probability that this thing I'm going to do is going to bring the desired outcome that I want? And you have to ensure that your expected value, which is your EV, has to be positive, not negative. When you have a betting game, you have so many people that are there that you cannot really predict. You have 22 players on the pitch, and you cannot predict this person's effort, this person's decisions, and things like that. If you have a business, you cannot predict, because you have so many constituents. But in business, you are a major determining factor. So if you're supposed to be sleeping by this time, or your business is failing, you can rise up and keep going, and you know everything that's happening around you. But for this person, you don't know. So the only difference between all those ones is that in business, you're a major determining factor, and you can make the right decisions by yourself. You can choose to make the right decisions by yourself. You can work on making a positive expected value. But these other ones, you don't know. But the truth of the matter is that one thing that's common to all of them is that there is probability in all of them. You cannot remove that factor of probability. And to get this right, to improve this, is that whichever of them that you're doing, you have to make sure that you're getting a positive expected value in those things. There's something that we call low probability and high probability. What is the probability of this shared decision happening? If it's high, then you have a likelihood that's going to give a positive expected value. Probability is low, that means it's going to give you a low expected value. So you want to aim for things that have high probability and low risk. That's just the basic line or basic tenets of getting a positive expected value. Look for something that has a high probability and low risk. High probability and low risk. Understand? And then the major constituents when we're talking about expected value is you have your win rate, have your risk to reward. So those are the major constituents in expected value. Major constituents in expected value is that you have your win rate and your risk to reward. Those are the major things that you are looking out for, and that is something that is very, very key in terms of making decisions. Two things are very important. What is my win rate in making decisions? And I'll talk about that in another video, how to develop win rates in whatever business decisions that you're taking in life or in business. And second thing you have is your risk to reward. Now the risk to reward shows that you want something that's going to have a high risk, that's going to have a low risk and a high reward. That's what you're aiming for. I want something that's going to have a very low risk as possible and high reward, as highly rewarding as possible. So for example, I'm starting a business and and I have 200 naira, my goal is that if I invest this 200 naira, I want to have that hope that the likelihood of me losing that 200 naira in that particular business I'm going to do is very, very slim. If I lose, I'm not going to lose that much. I'm going to lose $100. But if I gain from that business, I'm going to gain 400 naira. That's kind of way that rich people or successful people think about decision making. If I get married to this person, if it's not too good, if two of us do not flow well, at least she will make my life a little better. She'll make my life better than it is, or at least just leave me the same level. You understand? But if she goes well, if she's good the way I'm thinking about it, then my life is going to skyrocket. But when you say have something that is high risk and low reward, it's bad. Maybe the reward is that she's beautiful, she's going to stay with you for years, and then you're going to see the beauty is going to fade away. That's the reward. You can walk with her on the street and everything like that, but she has a very bad character, which is a high risk because it's not going to help you. Someone has a bad character, you know, that's a risk because that person can crash your business. Person spends too much, person talks anyhow. The risks there are too much, so you don't want to deal with all those risks. You want a risk that is very, very minimal. Maybe she's not too beautiful, right, but she has good character, she has great skill, she has business mindset and things like that. That's the kind of person you want to get married to. Person is the same, it's a very good genotype, everything matches and everything like that. So this is the kind of person that you want to get involved with, right? Because they have a high reward and a low risk. So we have the first constituent in talking about expected value is that I want something that has a high reward and a low risk. So the first constituent I'm talking about is risk to reward. What's the risk and what's the reward? Another thing is that you need to have in terms of decision making or expected value, getting a positive expected value, you need to have a high win rate, a good win rate. You understand? You need to have a good win rate in your decision making, meaning that you have the sense, you have the skill, you know how to make good decisions. You've seen it over there's a pattern that you're always making you're always making good decisions. So therefore, since I know that I'm always making good decisions, I should ensure that I'm always making it because of the years of experience. I'm now good at making good decisions in this particular field. Some people are very good in business, but they are very bad in making decisions in terms of relationship. They don't do that well. Some people are very, very good in relationship. They can enjoy and things like that. They know how to take care of their relationship, but they're not good in this area. So this area of expertise, I'm good in making decisions because I've been able to spend time with it. I've made decisions and failed over and over and over again. I've driven a car for over and over again and know when somebody is likely to make an error and things like that. Or another passenger or another driver is likely to make an error and things like that. So you want to have a high win rate, meaning that you have been playing this game long enough to know that you can easily win. It's just like Tony Robbins talks about anticipation and reaction. You know, if a kid comes and plays with somebody who's an adult, the kid say let's play PS, and then you say all right, let's play this game, and then you start playing the game, or you start playing a game of fighting. Because the kid is already used to it. He has practice. He knows, he's anticipating when somebody is going to, when a killer or someone that's against him is going to come to try to shoot, so he's already ready. But once everything just hitting you surprisingly, you start failing. Before you reach stage 1, you're dead. You understand? Because of this fact that this person has anticipation. He knows that there's something about to happen here, this thing will happen. If this doesn't happen, this happens. That's anticipation. But reaction is you do not know. You've never experienced it before, you've never seen it before. So you just believe that anything that comes just goes. It can just come and hit you. So you have a bad win rate because you don't have experience. It shows that you have a bad win rate and you make poor decisions. So that's what we talk about. Expected value means I need to have a good win rate, which is talk about expectations, your experience, and your skill as a business person, as an entrepreneur. I also have risk to reward. Very, very vital. You need to have good risk to reward in whatever decisions that you're making. Let me give classical example of this expected value so that you get it. Once I started this my last business that failed. Like I said before, I've had so many failed businesses. That's the truth. And with this one, after failing in 2 businesses that I did one also in school and did like 2 others when I came out from university. And I discovered that I needed to improve in so many areas. And some others that I've been doing this for quite about 4 years now, 5 years, and I've been able to learn. I've been able to see, all right, these are the kind of things that have happened. You study this life of this person, study real estate and things like that. You're able to see that these are the kind of things that happen in this area. Once you get to another new field of business, you have to learn the model of the business. So once I started my business, when I came out this last business, I had a very big challenge. It was agriculture, and we started with doing kernel and kernel shell. I started buying those commodities. I go to rural areas, we price all those things, and then you buy commodities from various farmers, and then you aggregate them, and then you sell them to companies who then export them. And at some point in the business, I started having financial challenges. Why? Because I have not gotten good win rates in my business in this space. I have not gotten the adequate win rates, and therefore I was making bad decisions which now affected my cash and trying to survive. Because if you're not getting a good win rate and you're not getting, if you started hitting negative expected value, you plan that this is going to come out like this, and then it's going like this the other way. One thing sets in, which is fear. You're talking about psychology and that, and that's very, very important. It's fear. And fear makes you to start thinking, oh, I'm going to lose my money, I'm losing my mind, I'm losing my. So because you want to survive, you just take the next available option, and most likely the next available option that is there for you is something that is never going to be favorable to you, because you're not with logic now. Your logical brain is beclouded. You're now having those neurotransmitters flooding your brain. You cannot think properly again. You're now thinking in ways that are not favorable to you. And these things are very, very bad, because once those neurotransmitters like your adrenaline and those stress hormones, those stress chemicals start coming into your brain, you don't think properly again. You're now emotional about the whole situation. And then from then on, I started meeting my people and said, borrow me money, just give me money, as I was not worthy enough to meet the bank. Because when you're credit worthy, if the bank is not giving unsecured loans and you have no collateral, then there's no business of you going to the bank. There's no even business. Even though you have a good business plan, you need to have something. You need to have good character. You need to have good credit. You need to have collateral. Collateral is very, very important. And then you need to have these things in place, because the bank don't want to be like you. The bank also want to have a high win rate and a high risk to and a high reward from their whatever thing they are going to risk. You understand what I'm saying? So now I started meeting my friends and saying, borrow me money please. And when I couldn't see, because of that emotions, I'm losing money in my business, and I started going into debt with different people and saying, borrow me money. When I couldn't see, I started reducing the timeline for that debt. Number one, I don't have a good win rate, and I was now getting too much risk. I'm going to pay this money next week, I'm going to pay this money next 2 weeks. It just didn't work. I kept going down and down. Then I met a friend that said, please borrow me money, I really need it. And she was working in an organization, and she told me, she said, I cannot borrow this money, and I have nothing. But she's a friend, and she has been very, very supportive, and I have different supportive friends. When they see people thriving, and it was starting from a very small amount, and it just came, and I used it. I went, and it came out a little bit successful, and then bad things came up again, and before you knew it, I was already using a larger sum of amounts in the business from debt, which is from an organization, which is fraud. You understand what I'm saying? That is fraud. And because of that, I didn't know about that at that time. I just did it, and before you knew, I invested in a location trying to gather quick returns. And then that place wasn't, as it was a mirage, and the business collapsed. Now I was in a large position, because you're taking too much risk. You're not just taking debt, you're paying this debt every week. You're not just paying this debt every week, you are taking this debt from a very bad place. You're taking this debt from an organization which is very, very bad and very, very risky for your business. And now you have to deal with that. And when I lost the money, there were only 2 things that were involved. Bro, since you cannot pay this money to this organization, probably they're going to arrest you and the young fellow who has been helping you get this amount of money, because you don't have a good win rate. You're trying to use very, very high risk just for a very, very low reward. Very, very low reward. You're sure, because this reward is, even if it comes, it cannot even match the risk that you're putting, the risk of getting arrested, the risk of losing your peace, the risk of losing your freedom. And then I just said, when the business lost, I had to find a way to clear that thing or get arrested for fraud, and started thinking about how can we survive. But you're thinking not just about yourself now. You're thinking about this person that you've taken money for from, and you're not just putting yourself into trouble. You've put somebody who wanted to help you to just come out. And that's one thing about making bad decisions, because once you make a bad decision and the business comes out successful, you tend to keep making bad decisions. Talking about me starting small, and then you kept borrowing and borrowing and borrowing because you've seen an easy way, you kept borrowing, but you're borrowing money from a place that is not good, but because it worked the first time, you started doing something that's bad. And that's why Tony Robbins says the worst thing for somebody to do is to go to a casino and then play a game and then win. If you cannot calculate your expected value in any decision you're making, then there's no point there. That's why if you've taken a bad decision and then it worked for you the first time, you need to run away from that place, because you're going to be addicted. Your brain is going to release dopamine, and you're going to have dopamine released to your system, and this is going to make you just like pornography or whatever new thing that brings about dopamine, pleasure seeking, because you succeeded first and you want to keep trying. And that's how the sport bookers, they keep taking money from people, because you've won the first time, and then because you think you can win again, you keep trying and trying and trying, and before you know, you've lost what you won, and you've lost even the things that you have. Why is this? Because you've been doing bad habits, and then because you have hard work for you the first time, you kept doing it, and you kept going deeper and deeper and deeper in bad habits, in a bad result that's bad positive, in a bad negative EV, expected value that is coming. It's going to be bad for you. And when I lost all this money, the only option that I had was to find a way to get the money back or risk being arrested. And what I did, the options that kept coming with bad options. That's why it's very, very difficult and dangerous, especially if you're somebody who is not successful, who is not wealthy. So always think about, how can I become wealthy as quickly as possible? How can I become successful as quickly as possible? The only options that kept coming, and that's the only option that keeps coming for people who are not successful, because the only options that are available is about bad options most of the time, and they don't even know a good option from a bad option. So even when they see a good option or a good investment tip, they may think it's a bad investment tip. And when they see a bad investment idea, just like in Nigeria, we had things like MMM, we have scammers, you have people who's telling you, bring money, I'm going to give you 200,000, to double your money in 2 days, because you think that's going to give you a quick money. That's high risk, because you're risking 2,000 or maybe 2,000 or $2,000 to get $4,000, of which you're not even sure if it's going to come. So you risk losing $6,000, not even just $2,000. You have a high chance of not getting that money. So because of that, the options that kept coming from me were bad options in terms of interest rate payments and things like that. So I had to get a loan, and then I had to pay that off, and then I was paying 10%. That was the agreement. Every single month, I was paying 10% of that loan every single month, and I was able to clear the money I took that as quickly as possible. I won't get arrested. I have to fulfill by the month, which is something that's very, very wrong. But because somebody is emotionally now detached from the logical sense, we've now started making bad decisions, and this is what affected me. I took up a bad loan to clear this loan, and then I started having interest payments that were too heavy for me, and that led to very bad things. I've started using loan apps, started using just bad debts, very, very bad debt, just because you don't want to get arrested. And I was no more even thinking about the business anymore. You're just thinking about, how do you survive, how do you pay back these debts? And that's what I see about so many people who are professionals or business owners or employees in different organizations. They are stuck. You have debts to pay, and because of that, you're now emotional. You're no more making the right decisions. You're now emotional because you don't want to get affected when you cannot take care of your family again, you cannot take care of your wife, you cannot provide food for them. So you keep taking that bad decisions, you keep taking that decisions that are not good for you. I had to come out and tell myself that, these decisions are bad for me, I have to stop. Because the risk of me getting arrested is too much, and I've dealt with that one. What is the risk of me in this case now? If you borrow money from somebody and then it's too much for you, all you have to focus on is, how do you get positive cash flow? How do you get a business, or how do you get positive cash flow that can pay for that debt, and at least keep something for you to save or invest in another business or another entity on its own? You have to think quickly, you have to think smartly, you have to think in a very, very wise way. So the risk is that, because if you cannot pay somebody after an agreement, it's a civil case, it's not a criminal case, and you risk losing a collateral if you have that. But at least you're not getting arrested, and you can always start. So people have signed bankruptcy and they feel the bankruptcy, and some people have gone and said they don't have anything. Although some people in some African countries they might arrest you, but they have no case in court. You understand? Because they made this agreement, and it was a bad win rate for them, and a high risk to reward to them. But you need to be careful, not just to say that we should borrow money and not pay back. It's very, very important for you to borrow money and always pay back at the right time. But you need to think about yourself, because this is not going to help you if you keep taking loans like that, or taking money from loan apps, from people who with no intention, because you may have this intention to pay back, but you're definitely not going to pay back because you're using bad debt. And to get to a debt floor, you cannot go any further than to surrender. And this is what makes some people to kill themselves, and just go like that, or lose a marriage or lose a relationship because they feel that they cannot go down any further. But the best thing is to stop doing that bad habit, stop doing that bad thing, which is very, very difficult because of fear. It's very, very difficult because of you're running away from something, which is more even dangerous than running towards something. You're running away from fear, from shame, from guilt, and then you decide to let me just keep going through this route, which is a very dangerous route. And because of that, you tend to lose your right to freedom. You don't want to lose your freedom. Freedom is not about controlling. It's not about controlling. It's about growth. Freedom is not about you are controlling different people and things that you can control power. That's not freedom. You can control yourself. Freedom is you're growing. If you're not growing, then you are stuck. Most of the things you're thinking about, you're just going down and down. That means you're not free. So it got to a point I had to make up my mind. Of course, which I'm still doing, because we're still in our comeback stage, is to say, damn it. Whatever thing is going to happen is going to happen. You have all these loans, you have loan apps to settle, you cannot settle. You have people to pay, you cannot pay. You just need to have one option, which is to keep talking to people and saying, oh, I cannot pay this money at this point in time. Here's what I'm doing to pay back your money. I'm trying to build a bill. I'm trying to set up my business. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to work this out. I'm trying to get a job. I've gotten a job. I've done this. I've done this. I'm going to pay you people one by one. Just understand with me. What's they going to do? They're going to arrest you. What's they going to do? They're going to try to not even arrest you, because that's not even feasible at all. They're going to try to report to the police. The police is going to settle the matter, but you have nothing to pay back. And if you had a collateral, of course they can take the collateral. They have every right to take the collateral. But if you didn't have a collateral, or if you didn't sign any collateral, it's their loss. So you have to be very, very, very careful. What your goal is, I want to stop the habit. I want to stop it, my pocket from leaking. I want to focus on building a business. I'll settle everybody and settle me too, so that everybody will be at peace. This is what I'm trying to do. Because if you don't do that, you can never build your business, you can never build yourself. So that's the art of coming back, is that working on your decisions. And that's for people who are trying to come back. You have to focus on, if I have a bad habit, which is very, very high risk and a low reward for me, I want to be able to ensure that I change this over into high reward and low risk for all of us, so that everybody can get their money back. Because you want to ensure that you're getting a positive value from every single decision. If you're down negative, you coming back. If you're down negative 1 million, you coming up to negative 900,000. It's a big plus. It's a plus. You're going up. So even though you're staying in the negative, but at least you're improving. So that's what you want to learn. You want to keep going the right way. Of course, if you make these decisions, you're going to be shamed, you're going to feel guilty and things like that, but you're going to enjoy that for a moment. Maybe may come for a night, but joy is going to come in the morning. That's what you want to focus on. I want to get joy in the morning. And when you keep pushing like that, you keep going like that, before you know what's happening, you're down. You're now up in the positive sense. You're now positive cash flow. You're now positive. You're now in profits, not just in loss anymore. You understand? That is something that is very, very important. Now, for people who are just coming to start any business or anything like that, the first thing you want to do is that you want to improve your win rate. How you make decisions, and the way you do that, when you want to have a high win rate, you have to ensure that this risk to reward, what you're going to reward from this thing, is going to be low. Because if, for example, I'm risking 100 naira to get 200 naira next year, it's something that's very, very feasible. So my win rate is going to be almost 100%. So I'm going to have a higher win rate with low reward from my risk. Once you are getting, sometimes later I'm going to write them on the board so that you see clearly. But when you are telling yourself that I'm making higher, I want to get higher rewards from my investment or anything like that, then you're going to get a low win rate. You're going to do less actions. Expected value is equals to the win rate times your risk to reward. So if that is very small, then there's no way that you can make it. So if the win rate is 0, then the expected value is automatically is 0. So you need to work work on these things. You know what I'm saying? So if you increase what you want to focus on as a business person who is just coming in business, you want to have a high win rate, meaning that because you have a low win rate when you start, you have a low win rate, so you want to get small reward for higher risk, for lower risk, and you want to get small rewards for lower risk. So you start with small amounts of stock. You start with small amounts of clients. You start with less work. You start from step one. You're learning. Kiyosaki said you have to make mistakes quickly as possible, because you're definitely going to make mistakes. So you're driving a bicycle, for example, you have to go gently. Start from the pedals. Start from how you roll the pedal on the side. You're making those. You're succeeding. You're having a higher win rate and low reward. You're just focusing on getting small wins. That's what you're focusing on. I want to get small wins. Not I want to get big wins. You're going to lose out. If you say you want to get big wins, you're going to lose out. So you want to get small wins so that you can be getting a high win rate. You started from step one. You finished step one. You got a low. You move slow step, but at least you won. You did it again. You won. That's why it's very important, because you're going to make mistakes and then you lose. You lost your risk. It's a low risk, but at least it's something that is still in positive expected value. So you cannot get the two of them at the same time. You cannot say I'm getting a high reward from low risk. I'm going to be winning all the time or most of the time. No. You're going to be getting a low reward, low risk, and then a high win rate, or a high reward, low risk for a lower win rate. Meaning that somebody who is, some great investors from Silicon Valley and other places like that, they said one of the things I read is that most of those investors, they lose 90% of the time. That's the win rate is 10%. But however, when they win, that 10%, that win, because they've gotten a high reward, is going to cover up their losses, which was the 90%. So, for example, people who do trading, you see, they will tell you that their risk to reward is 1:2. That means I'm risking $100 to get $2. However, their win rate is like 50 to 60%. That's when it's profitable. I'm going to do these calculations. Some other time I'm going to do the calculations for you so that you understand them in terms of business. But the truth of the matter is I want to ensure that you are getting a high win rate and a low reward to your risk once you're starting out. You practice and start small. You have to keep learning. You have to come out and start learning, but don't start big. You want to get a high win rate because you're going to have something like a third eye in business. There's something in business called a third eye. You know that this thing is not good. Somebody sees an investment and says, yes, this investment is right, but you know that no, this investment is not fit, it's wrong. Let's pass. You understand? So that's what you want to be thinking about, and then you're thinking about how can you increase your expected value in terms of in positive terms. So you don't want to have a negative value, not at all. So entrepreneurs and business owners, if you're just starting, make sure you're getting, because you don't have that experience, you want to have a higher win rate and a low reward to your risk. You understand what I'm saying? So whatever business that you're doing, it's very important for you to always think about this stuff. So I made up my mind. I said, if I want to really come back into this space and thrive and win, I have to be very, very rigorous in terms of decision making and saying, what if I do not make this decision? If, for example, I'm owning low capital and I say, I want to keep paying these people, of course they did well for me. It's a very good help that they've done, but it's going to affect me, and I'll reach a point when I cannot pay them. My risk is just too much. You understand? So it's bad business. We have to be very, very rigorous and say, what's going to happen if I do not pay? I'm not getting arrested, right? I might be this and this and this for a period of time, but I'm going to come out, because you want to focus on getting out from that mess. So we have to stop the bad habits. So that means you're increasing your reward by reducing your risk. Also, you want to reduce your risk as much as possible. Like I said, if you're doing things that are going to affect your business or affect your life, then there's not going to be an opportunity for you to be successful, which is what you don't want. You want to succeed in this space that you've come to, and you have to keep doing the right things that are necessary for you to succeed. It's going to be hard. Like I said, like I always say, business is hard, and trading is hard, and betting is hard, and everything is hard, but like Jim Rohn is going to say, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. And the only way you can become better is by practicing, by going and getting punched in the face, going through the process, striving, and then getting better. Once you get better, it's easier for you to keep advancing. That's why the Bible even says the rich keeps getting richer, and people who are poor find it difficult to even become rich. You have to pass through that process. Because once you become rich, Charlie Munger says your first 1 million is going to be the hardest. Once you become rich, it's easier for you to even become more rich, because you now understand good investments from bad investments. You understand things that are good for you and things that are not good for you, so you can easily move up the value chain. But since if you don't understand those things yet, it's going to be very, very hard for you, and you need to learn more, you need to practice more, you need to get into the field and keep doing your work and making the mistakes and keep moving forward. But just don't ever give up. Ensure that everything that you do is the right thing. So if you found value in this video, make sure that you leave a comment, and then make sure that you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. It's very important to me, since we're learning in this channel about how to successfully come back from a failed business, or how to build a successful business in whatever space, especially I'm in the agricultural space. But actually I'm a lover of business systems, and I keep learning every day to see how I can become better, and then to share with everybody, because it's not about the space, it's about understanding business generally. Whatever thing you're selling laptops, you're selling fans, you're selling cashew, you're selling slippers, you want to get positive cash flow in whatever thing that you're doing. And it's about understanding business systems in the end, having a technical sense and then understanding business. So people who are big businesses are not even good, are not technical experts. However, they understand the business sense of the sales, marketing, the cash flow, the product itself, the mission, the leadership, the team around it. They understood all those things, and it's very vital for them. And you see, they're able to make it in their businesses that they've encountered. So if you found value in this video, make sure you subscribe and leave a like, and then turn on the notification bell, and also leave a comment on how you've handled a difficult time in your business. And I'll see you in the next video.